Good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Craig. I'm the President and CEO of the Monterey County Business Council, and welcome today for joining us to our wonderful webinar. We are a membership-based organization that works collaboratively with private business, public sector, and nonprofit organizations. We are always looking to expand our network, and if you think we're doing good work here, we would love to have you as a member. That's just my pitch for the Monterey County Business Council. Our membership application can be found at www.mcbc.biz, Monterey County Business Council.biz. We are continuing our commitment to communication with you. When you registered, you gave us your email address, and we plan to have these free webinars weekly. We will let you know of upcoming webinars that drill down on more specific topics on this issue. Next week, we will go more in depth with the Paycheck Protection Plan. We know that we have a lot of questions and a lot of unknowns right now. So we expect to have more details in the next few days. That being said, new guidelines came out yesterday, and we will be covering some of those in the webinar today. I do want to thank our partners, the Small Business Development Center, the United States Small Business Administration, the City of Salinas, and the County of Monterey. And a shout out to Luis Alvarez of Alvarez Technology Group. He is the one that is producing the webinar today. As you can see, we do have a few housekeeping items just to make sure that everybody understands what's going on. We have over 700 participants today. So I know many of you are working from home right now. You are used to using Zoom and WebEx, etc. We just determined the best way to do this today is through Microsoft Teams. That way we can reach this many people. I figured, can you imagine a Zoom call with 700 webcams? Let's go over the agenda. All right, today we have, this is the agenda for today. We have Small Business Disaster Loans with Cindy Merzon, the Director of CalCoastal Small Business Development Center. We also have Jennifer Kuyper, the Senior Relationship Manager for Pacific Valley Bank. She'll be talking about banking and their involvement with this. We also have Andy Seeto with the United States Small Business Administration. He's the Lender Relations Specialist. And we also have Lawrence Harris, the Director of the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. So for those of you that are small businesses, he helps small businesses get government contracts, and government, as we know, is still open for business. So we'll be hearing from them. So that's from 10 to 11 today. And then from 11 to 11:30 a.m., we will have questions. If you can take a look on your right-hand side of your screen, there's a gray box. A gray panel, and down at the bottom there's a space to ask questions. We will be going through those and publishing questions, and I'm sure there will be quite a few, so we will do our best to answer as many today as possible. If we do not answer your question, please submit your question on the chat there with your email, and we will respond to it directly after the webinar today. We are also recording this so that you can go back and take a look and cull through some of the information. And we will be emailing out the link to everyone who is registered, so you can go back and look and go through the information. And we will have contact names, numbers, and emails on that as well. So with that, I would like to introduce Cindy Merzon. And one last thing, and this is just from the heart, if I may. I know this is a really scary time for a lot of us. I know that it's uncertain. And what I would just share with you is that we are committed to ensuring that business continues to be successful in Monterey County. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you and the Monterey Business Council for hosting this event. And I will start by echoing what you just said. I truly, my heart goes out to small business owners and all they're facing right now. And we truly are committed to helping you as much as we can to survive this challenge and come back stronger than ever. So we are going to be talking about two disaster loan programs today. One is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program from the SBA, and the other is the Paycheck Protection Program, which is part of the CARES Act. And I want to start with Jennifer Kuyper, from the Senior Relationship Manager from Pacific Valley Bank. She has another commitment that she needs to talk to us first so that she can get onto that. And it's really important, I think, for you to hear from a bank perspective how this Paycheck Protection Program is going to work. Jennifer?
Thank you, Cindy. And I just want to echo both Kimberly's and Cindy's sentiments in reassuring you that your community is working for you, including your bankers, regardless of which institution you're with. I know we are all working really hard to digest the principles and the different features of the payroll protection program. So a couple of considerations that we're facing as a business ourselves is how we can deploy the plan as it was written effectively and efficiently, but still maintaining our levels of fiduciary responsibility. So as we move forward, I do believe that many banks will look to participate as well. But from a banking perspective, the liquidity that's required to inject into the community to make the payroll protection program happen, it's going to be a bit of a conduit, if you will, in the sense that the SBA will be reimbursing banks for their commitment on these payroll protection program loans. So there have been changing directives from both the U.S. Treasury and from the SBA. One of the challenges is the platform that banks are required to use to submit the information. It has its challenges on a normal flow of business days. So we're anticipating that we'll need to be very patient with the process, and I just ask that you be very patient with your bankers. We've gotten a handful of different directives from different segments of the government, and we've received different forms and different processes. The procedures are changing, it seems, almost on a hourly basis. But I think at this point we have a form. I know I speak for myself at Pacific Valley Bank that we are close to having the procedures complete and be in a position where we're able to help our clients and some of our non-clients in the community with the funds that they so are in true desperate need of to keep our local economy viable and valid looking forward. So we're here for you as a community. You are in very good hands with Kimberly and with Cindy and with Andy Seeto. And I'll go ahead and jump off the call because we're scrambling to get the forms that are necessary up on our website as well. So thank you all very much. We will, as a community, get through this.
Jennifer, thank you for sharing that information. I know that every bank is scrambling, so we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to chat with us and give us a little insight into what you're facing. Okay, so I want to welcome you all and thank you for joining us today. I'm used to doing in-person workshops and one-on-one sessions with businesses, so like you, our lives and our service delivery model has changed pretty much a lot in the past 17 days. Wow, it seems like it's been a month at least, not 17 days. As I said, my heart goes out to you, and I just encourage you to hang in there and keep fighting to go forward. We're going to get through this together. The federal and the state governments are trying to help businesses through this, through the legislation that they've passed in the last several weeks. And they look to their resource partners like the small business development centers, SCORE, the Women's Business Centers, the Veterans Outreach Centers, to help deliver those programs and services to you as a business owner. So if you haven't heard about us, I'm glad you're here today so you can know that we're here for you. Your head is probably spinning with all of the information that's been coming at us through the media. I know ours is, as we try to stay on top of all of the changes that you just heard Jennifer talk about, and all of the available resources that are there, so that when we meet with you, we've got the most up-to-date information and can give you the best advice possible. So bear with us. We are a bit overwhelmed with all of the new information and all of the changes, and our desire to pass it on to you accurately. So I will give you caveats today as we're walking through some of the presentations so that you know that this is as of today. It could change an hour from now. It could change tomorrow, but we want you to get as much information as you can, as up to date as possible. As you know, laws are passed by Congress, get signed by the president, and then it's handed off to the administration and staff to develop the guidelines and the regulations or the final rules for implementing that guidance. That's what's been going on since the CARES Act passed on March the 27th. It's pretty phenomenal that an 880-page law can be translated into implementation guidelines that are published a few short days. So from March the 27th to April the 2nd. So that gives you an idea of even the folks that are helping write the implementation guidelines are needing to understand what Congress had in mind when they developed that law. You're hearing the vision of what the media thinks when they read that law. So you may be getting some bad information. What you're hearing on the news may not be exactly what ends up in the final rules. So we're going to try to give you the best information that we can. I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint. All right. I'm going to make sure you're seeing it. I don't want to start talking about it until you can see it. Can you see the slides?
Not yet, Cindy.
Now you can. Yes?
You are on.
You're on. Okay, great. So my name is Cindy Merzon. As you've heard, I'm the director of the CalCoastal Small Business Development Center. The purpose of the presentation today, I want to give you a little bit of information about what is an SBDC and talk about the disaster loans that have been promised. So who is the SBDC? SBDC stands for the first letters of Small Business Development Center. We're hosted by the California Coastal Rural Development Corporation, which is a small business lender, a mission lender that does loans for small businesses that can't access capital from conventional banks or other conventional lenders. So it's a nice partnership. We provide technical assistance and business advice and guidance to businesses to help them get ready for a loan that they might be able to get from CalCoastal or from another lender. We are an SBA and Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development resource partner. What that means is they provide us with funding to deliver the services to you, and we do that at no cost to you because of those funding resources. We have other local partners that help provide funding so that we can offer no-fee one-on-one business advising. We have workshops and webinars, and you can find and register for those on our website calendar. And we also try to keep local business information and resources available so that we can offer you a referral to someone who can help you if we can't. We serve small, for-profit businesses in Monterey and San Benito counties. So many of you have already taken advantage of our services in the last 17 days, we've served almost 200 different business owners and trying to help them access some of these services. So the best way to get into the queue, because the line is pretty long right now, is that you go to our website and register for services. You'll see a link on this slide. Don't worry about trying to hurry up and write it down. At the end of the slideshow, I have a resource page that has all of these links, and we'll leave it up during the Q&A time. And then when we send the information out, you'll have access to that as well. So you go to the website and you register. Once you've registered, we will call you to complete the registration and to connect you with the no-fee services that you're looking for. We understand that your need is urgent, and the service demand, as I mentioned before, has exceeded our normal staff and consulting resources, so please, please be patient. We're working 7 days a week until 10 and 11 o'clock at night to try to be able to respond to all of the needs, because that's what we want to do, is we want to help you. So in the meantime, if you'll go to our website, there's a COVID-19 business resource page, and there are an abundant number of links that are there to help you. Information from the federal sources, the state sources, and the local sources, and all the resources that are available. And because they're linked to the site, the original site that's providing these services, providing these resources, you're getting up-to-date information, even though it's changing pretty frequently. So if, for example, if you go to our site and you click on the CARES Act or something about the Paycheck Protection Program, it will have everything that SBA has published on their site as of today about the Paycheck Protection Program. So today we're going to talk primarily about two things. We're going to talk about SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan and the Payroll or Paycheck Protection Program. So you'll see that the slides are a mix of things. As you heard early on, we sort of have pulled together this webinar quickly to try to get information out to you. So some of the slides come from SBA PowerPoint presentations. Some of them come from things I've gathered off of the website just to bring you most up to date. So the SBA is providing economic injury disaster loans for coronavirus-related economic disruptions. They do disaster and economic injury loans for all kinds of disasters, but the one that we're talking about today is specifically related to the coronavirus-related economic disruptions. When there's a disaster declaration made, SBA then does a declaration to offer loans. This one is due to the coronavirus. It initially started by offering this disaster loans to not all of the states, but we quickly discovered that this problem was going to affect all of us. So now these disaster loans are available for all states and territories. It's a low interest federal disaster loan, and it's specifically for working capital to small businesses that are suffering substantial economic injury as a result of the coronavirus. What businesses are eligible to apply? It's available to small businesses, small agricultural cooperatives, small aquaculture businesses, and most private nonprofit organizations. I want to clarify, when we talk about agriculture, you don't see growers up there. This particular loan program is not designed for them. This includes businesses that are directly affected by the disaster, businesses that offer services directly related to the business in the declaration, and then any other businesses indirectly related to the industry that are likely to be harmed by the losses in the community. So it's kind of the vertically integrated approach of an industry that's affected by a problem. So if you manufacture widgets, you may be eligible, as well as the wholesaler and retailer of the widgets that you manufacture, all eligible. So what's the criteria for loan approval? Remember that this loan is done directly by the SBA Disaster Assistance Loan Program Center. And so they're going to make the loan decision, they're reviewing your application, and they're considering these three important things. They're considering your credit history. Applicants must have a credit history that's acceptable to SBA. They're looking to assure that you're going to be able to repay the SBA loan, that your business is going to recover and it's going to continue and you'll be able to repay what you've gotten. And they're checking to make sure that you're eligible. Of course, the main eligibility is being located in an area that's affected by this disaster, which is all of us. that you're not applying due to a downturn in the economy or for other reasons that are not related to COVID-19. So what that means is when you do your application, you want to be very specific about how your loss of working capital is related to COVID-19 and the shelters in place. So how much can you borrow? Eligible businesses may qualify for loans of up to $2 million. And the interest rate is pretty phenomenal for this disaster. It's 3.75% for small businesses and 2.75% for nonprofit organizations. And the terms for that money is up to 30 years. So the eligibility for these working capital loans is based on the size of the business. So not every business can get one of these loans, but it fits most of the businesses in our area. You must be a small business, and we'll talk a little bit further on in the slides what a small business is. And it also is based on the type of business and its financial resources. So how can you use these loan funds? Remember I said earlier it's working capital, so you can use it to pay fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and any other bills that could have been paid had the disaster not occurred. The loans are not intended to replace lost sales or profits or for expansion of your business. So questions are often asked about, well, do I have to have collateral to get this loan? If you are getting a loan of $25,000 or less than $25,000, they don't require collateral. However, economic injury disaster loans over $25,000 require collateral. SBA will take real estate as collateral when it's available, but they will not decline a loan for lack of collateral, but require that you pledge it if you have it. So it's one of the decisions one of the characteristics that they consider when they're making a decision about doing a loan. Oh, no. So what kinds of small businesses can apply? Examples of eligible industries include, but are not limited to the following: hotels, recreation facilities, charter boats, manufacturers, sports vendors, owners of rental property, restaurants, retailers, souvenir shops, travel agencies, and wholesalers. The applicant business must have a physical presence in the declared disaster area. So your economic presence alone in the declared area does not meet that requirement. So your physical presence needs to be tangible and significant. If you just have a PO box here and you are operating your business outside of these declared disaster areas, you would not qualify as a physical presence. SBA's economic injury disaster loan funds come directly from the U.S. Treasury. As an applicant, you do not go through a bank to apply. You heard Jennifer talk earlier about bank loans. That's for the Paycheck Protection Program, not for this economic injury disaster loan. You would apply directly with the SBA's Disaster Assistance Program at disasterloan.sba.gov. There is no cost for you to apply. There is no obligation for you to take the loan if after applying they decide to offer it to you and you decide you don't want it. It's okay, you don't have to take it. The maximum unsecured loan amount is $25,000, yet the maximum loan amount could be up to $2 million with security. Applicants can have an existing SBA disaster loan. Some businesses in our area were affected by fires in the past and were able to access disaster loans. You can still qualify for this disaster loan, but you cannot consolidate the two loans. Uh-oh. I'm having a technical difficulty here. My slide is not moving forward. I apologize.
Cindy, make sure you click on the screen on the PowerPoint and then try it again.
All right. That would be really good if it's like. I thought maybe it was my mouse and it's not that. It's not gone to the mouse pad and it's not working either.
Hit escape.
We're so thankful to have Luis Alvarez on here to help us with these technical challenges from Alvarez Technology Group. Oh man. Here we go. Let's see if that works. Yay! Okay. So this is how you apply. If you've been on that website in the last 3 to 4 weeks, you will find that it has changed from time to time. This is the current picture of the streamlined online application. And there's the link for that streamlined on application. You can always find it by just searching SBA Disaster Loan Assistance, and this will come right up. This is what the application page looks like. It is, you can see the 4 buttons talk about disclosures, business information, business owner's information, additional information, and summary. That is the entire part of the application process. So here's the streamlined process requirements. The SBA is collecting information through this online application in order to make a loan under this disaster program to qualified entities. So the first page is specifically designed to determine whether or not you are eligible for this economic injury loan. You'll find in the online application that it does not allow you to go forward to the next page if you've not answered all of the things that you need to answer on the page that you're on, or if something has happened on that page that determines you're no longer eligible for the program. Your loan cannot be fully processed or reviewed for approval if you do not submit all of the requested information. So pay attention to what they're asking for, both online and if you get a phone call from a loan officer or an email from a loan officer requesting additional information. SBA is relying upon business owners for self-certifications to verify that you're eligible to receive an advance. If you've not heard about this wonderful advance, there is an available cash advance of up to $10,000 if you apply for this loan. So you apply for the loan. In the course of the application process, there's a box that allows you to check it to say that you're interested in getting the advance and identifying how much you want. What will happen is you will be asked for your bank routing and account number, and that amount of money, up to $10,000, will be deposited as an emergency cash advance in your bank account within 3 business days. So applicants are providing as part of their self-certification that they're doing that under penalty of perjury, so that whatever you're putting on that application, you're telling the truth. SBA estimates the time for completing the entire application is 2 hours and 10 minutes, although you don't need to complete all of the parts. Kimberly went through the application process yesterday, I think. Kimberly, you can chime in if you would like on how long it took you to do it.
So I applied for it last night, and it required my income from 2019, I think, my gross income, and then my net expenses, and it took me less than 10 minutes.
So that's a pretty quick loan application. Thanks, Kimberly.
Yep, no problem.
This is essentially what you're going to look at on the very first page. It's going to ask you to choose one of those items. So I'm going to go through them quickly because this is where it identifies which businesses are eligible. If you are a business with not more than 500 employees, you might check that. But if you are an individual who operates under a sole proprietorship with or without employees or as an independent contractor, you would check that one. So you're going to check whichever of these statements best fits your situation. So you can be a cooperative with not more than 500 employees, an employee stock ownership plan with not more than 500 employees. Do you get the drift on the 500 employees message? That's SBA's normal definition of a small business. You could be a small business with more than 500 employees if you're considered small under SBA's size standards, and you can find that size standard list there at the link. Again, these links will be available at the end of the PowerPoint, and we'll leave them up for you. You could also apply if you're a private nonprofit organization that is a non-governmental entity or an entity that currently has an effective ruling letter from the IRS granting tax. You can also, if you're a producing organization that's a nonprofit that's organized or doing business under state law, or a faith-based organization. This next part of the eligibility process, if you are unable to check all of these statements, you are not eligible to apply. So that's, I'll leave it up for a second. You can see the things that would make you not be eligible. If you're engaged in any illegal activity as defined by federal guidelines. If any applicant has a 50% or greater ownership interest in the business, is 60 days or more delinquent on child support obligations, you are not eligible. If you are an agricultural enterprise, a farm, a growing industry, other than aquaculture or agricultural cooperative or a nursery, you are not eligible to apply for this. Applicants that has to say that they do not present live performances of a prurient sexual nature or derive directly or indirectly more than a de minimis gross revenue through the sale of those products, etc. Applicants cannot derive more than 1/3 of their gross annual revenue from legal gambling activities. Applicants cannot be in the business of lobbying, and they cannot be a state, local, or municipal government entity or a member of Congress. So if you cannot check that box, every single one of those boxes, it will not allow you to continue forward with the application process. So the business information that you will need, so you would want to gather that ahead of time before you sit down to do the application, is they're going to ask your business legal name, your trade name if you have one, your employer identification number or social security number for a sole proprietor. What's your organization type? So that's, are you a corporation or an LLC or a partnership, etc. Are you a nonprofit organization? Are you a franchise owner? They want to know what your gross revenues are for 12 months prior to January 31st, 2020. So get those statements out before you sit down at the computer. They want to know your cost of goods sold for 12 months prior to January 31st, 2020. They want to know if you're a renting business, if that's what you do for a business, have you lost rents due to the disaster? If you're a nonprofit, they want the cost of operations for 12 months prior to January 31st. If you're a faith-based entity, they want your annual operating revenues for the 12 months prior, and they want you to list any secular social services that are being provided by this faith-based entity. They're also looking for compensation from other sources received as a result of the disaster. So if you've gotten a grant or another kind of loan to help offset your losses, they want to understand whether or not you're asking for duplicative funding for the same losses. They want you to describe any other sources of compensation that you may have for that. They then want your primary business address. They don't want a PO box, because remember, one of the eligibility requirements is that you have a physical presence in the area. They want your business phone, fax, email. They want to know what your business activity is. It's a drop-down category. You just choose what best fits for you. Same thing with business detail activity, a drop-down. And they want to know how many employees you had as of January 31st, 2020. You go through the process, you fill in the business owner's information and any additional information they request. In the additional information is where that little checkbox is for the advance the cash advance that you'd like to get. So don't forget to do that. You'll get a summary of the application, and then you will receive a confirmation number when your application has been accepted. Wait to hear from the SBA loan officer. It's going to take a little patience. There are folks that have applied quite a while ago, and they take them in the order of the queue. So be patient. Additional information that you need to know about this program is if you applied before March the 30th and one of the earlier versions of the application process, resubmit your application. That gives you the ability to apply for that $10,000 up to $10,000 emergency advance. All you have to do is check the box when you do this streamlined application, have your bank account and routing information available, and as I had mentioned earlier, they direct deposit that amount into your business banking account within 3 business days. The advance is yours to keep, whether or not your economic injury disaster loan application is approved. If your loan is approved, you will have a 12-month deferral on the initial payment. What that means is that the interest will accrue during months 1 through 11, but you don't have to make a payment until month 12. If you have more than one business, multiple businesses can apply. You would apply for each entity that has an individual tax ID number. There are no points, no fees, or prepayment penalties should you take the loan and decide to pay it off early. You cannot use this to refinance existing debt. Okay, so something to consider. This is not a grant. It is not a gift. They are expecting you to make payments. And so there's just an example of what, what that interest might look like and what the payment might look like. If you were borrowing $25,000 for 30 years at 3.75%, it's going to be $116 a month. So you can see the others, just to give you an idea of what you might be expecting. So I'm going to move on next to the Paycheck Protection Program, tell you a little bit about that. When we get to the end of both of them, we have a couple of quick presentations and we'll take questions at the end. So the Paycheck Protection Program is a direct incentive for small businesses to keep their workers on the payroll. That's the whole point of the program. As I said earlier, it was approved by Congress on March the 27th. The regulations were released on April the 2nd. Additional instructions and revisions were released this morning. And today is the first day that businesses with employees can apply, provided that you can find a bank who has their process in place. You heard Jennifer talk about they're working on it right now, who has their process in place that's ready to take and start processing the loans. But Congress has said it's available and open should the bank be available to provide it. So then next Friday, April the 10th, businesses with no employees can start applying. So the main things around this is that this particular program forgives loans if all of the employees stay on the payroll for 8 weeks and the money that you get from this program is used for payroll, rent, mortgage interest, or utilities. You do not apply through the SBA. You do not apply through the SBDC. You apply through an SBA 7 lender that is participating in this program. So most of you I know are saying, so who's participating in the program? Well, you heard from Jennifer from Pacific Valley Bank earlier that they're participating. I will tell you of the lenders that I have been told are participating. My advice to you is that you go to your bank, your business bank with whom you have a relationship. They know you, they trust you. Your best option is to always get your loan from the bank that you normally do business with. So ask them if they're doing one of these loan programs. If they're not, encourage them to do that. They need to know that the businesses need their help. So most banks in the area are SBA 7A lenders. Those who have indicated that they're likely to participate in this program so far are Pacific Valley Bank, Pinnacle Bank, Monterey County Bank for their existing customers, and Bank of America has said that for their existing customers that have, I think what they called it a full relationship banking arrangement. So they have a business banking account. So that's all I know in terms of banks right now. We're going to continue to be reaching out to our banking partners, and hopefully more will come online as time goes forward. So who can apply for the PPP? So any small business with less than 500 employees, again, you see the 500, the small business definition, including sole proprietors, independent contractors, and those that are self-employed. Private nonprofit organizations, as well as 501c19 veterans organizations that are affected by coronavirus or COVID-19. Businesses in certain industries may have more than 500 employees if they meet SBA's size standards, same as the other loan program. The size standard chart works here too. Small business in the hospitality and food industry with more than one location could also be eligible if their individual locations employ less than 500 workers. So if you have 12 restaurants, if each of those locations have less than 500, so less than 500 workers, you could apply, even though your total might be more than 500. So loan details and forgiveness. The loan will be fully forgiven if the funds are used for payroll costs, interest and mortgages, rent, and utilities. Now, their concern is they expect that this money is going to be used up very quickly in the process. So there's a couple of things you need to know. One is you need to apply as soon as possible if this is a loan program you're interested in seeking. The second is the forgiveness amount of the loan is going to be based on, it has to at least be 75% of it has to have been used for payroll. So if you borrowed $1,000 and you were able to demonstrate at the end of the time period that you used $1,000 for the eligible costs that are listed in that first bullet, at least 75% of that total expenditure must have been payroll for it to be fully forgiven. Loan payments will also be deferred on this loan for 6 months. Interest will accrue, but loan payments don't start until the end of 6 months. There are no collateral or personal guarantees required, and none of the lenders will charge any small business fees. They will collect those fees from the federal government. Forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees that they may have already laid off and maintaining salary levels. So they will reduce the forgiveness amount if your full-time headcount declines or if the salaries and wages decrease. So again, remember the focus of this is to provide incentives for people to keep workers on and to keep paying them at their rate of pay or better. The loan has a maturity of 2 years and the interest rate is 1%. So given the two that we've talked about, you may say, wow, you know, where do I start? Which one should I use? We like to say that if you need capital to cover the cost of retaining employees that you have, that you don't want to have to let them go, or even bringing back employees that you've already let go, but you really want to keep them for the long term, the Paycheck Protection Program is the best program for that, because the primary focus on the forgiveness piece is around payroll. If you need a quick infusion of cash to cover what you need right now, remember that this cash advance of up to $10,000 could be in your account within 3 business days. This is the one you want to go after. If you think that you could benefit from both of them, you can apply for both of them as long as you're not applying for the same cost recovery under each program. So if you've got a lot of non-payroll costs, you might want to apply for that under your economic injury loan, and then put all your payroll costs under the Paycheck Protection Program. Some of you may have existing SBA loans, and if you do, please know that there are deferments available for those loans as well, and there's a link that you can find out more about that. So here's the links page. There's 2 of them. And these are the ones that we'll make sure that we kind of alternate before as we're doing through the Q&A so you have time to get at them. So remember, for business assistance, you can register for SBDC services here. And don't forget that we have a great COVID-19 business resource page. You can connect to all of these loan application pages I've been talking about from that page. And if you can't remember any of those links, just look up CalCoastalSBDC.com and you'll find all of what you need right there. So if you need to remember the link for economic injury disaster loan, you can go, this link will take you directly to the loan application page. You can also search the SBA disaster economic injury loan and it'll bring the page up for you. If you have questions, you can call an SBA 800 number, and there is an SBA email address for the disaster customer service at sba.gov. I will tell you, Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I heard that a week ago that they had already taken in 1 million applications for this loan program. So you can imagine they are probably getting at least 1 million, if not more, emails and calls from people. So people are not getting responses very quickly because they're scrambling to process these loans. So that may not be the best thing for you to do. If you've got questions and we can help you, give us a call. We'll try to help answer those questions first. If we can't answer them, what SBA is telling us is that you need to just be patient. They will get back to you. The Paycheck Protection Program, there's a PPP SBA website there. You can go to SBA's website and just type in Paycheck Protection Program and you can find all the information that I spoke with you about today. The treasury.gov has a PPP borrower fact sheet, which has more details, and it also has the latest and greatest sample application. Now, this is an application that the federal government has said these are the things that need to be in your banking application. Each bank may create their own application. It just has to have all of the documentation that's required by the sample one. So if you want to get started on gathering that information, download that sample application and you can start getting it ready to go before you go and talk to your bank. Here's the SBA size standards link and the SBA debt relief program link again. So that is all I have for the presentation, and I think, Kimberly, we've got Lawrence is next, right?
That's correct. Lawrence Harris is our Procurement Technical Assistance Center Director. And I think Lawrence is muted.
And Lawrence has slides, correct?
Yes.
So I'm going to take mine down.
All right, and Lewis, I think Lawrence is muted, so if you can also unmute him so that he can speak to his slides.
I'm trying to unmute him.
Well, while we're working on that, perhaps we can go to Andy Seeto to talk a little bit about the Small Business Administration and their participation, obviously, and commitment.
Hi, Kimberly. Thanks a lot. Yeah, this is Andy Seeto. I'm with the Fresno District Office of the Small Business Administration. Just wanted to say, Cindy Merzon, good job on the presentation, and echo the sentiments that it takes a community to make things work. In this case here, the community is large now. Not only is it local, it's regional, it's statewide, it's nationwide. So We're trying to do the best as possible to get these programs out and available to our small business communities, to give them the access to capital they need to have as much as possible and quickly as possible. So the programs are here, they're available. As one of the most important thing is if you did apply for that economic injury disaster loan program, as Cindy mentioned a couple of weeks ago, in order to get that $10,000 loan advance, you must reapply again. So you have to go into the system. The system now, as opposed to 3 weeks ago, is a much simpler loan application process. As Kimberly mentioned, she went in and did it, and it only takes about 10 to 15 minutes. What you want to do is make sure you have all your financial information in front of you, though, to help you fill out the expense, the profit sheet and the expense sheet, so that way you have the appropriate numbers from filling that in. The Paycheck Protection Program, you want to make sure to approach your business bank first. There are some business banks that you may be with, like a credit union, that doesn't participate in the SBA programs. If that is the case, then try other lenders in your area. The majority of the national banks are participating in the Paycheck Protection Program, and they are also doing it for their non-bank customers as well. So keep that in mind, and if your current business bank is not offering it, and it is their, where some banks may not be able to entertain the enormous amount of capital that needs to be done to fund these type of loans. So if that does happen, try the next lending institution that's out there to see if they can accommodate your request.
Thanks, Andy. Just so everyone knows, I brought Andy, wanted Andy to be part of this call so that as we get into the question and answer period, he has a lot more information than I have. So we'll tag team on answering questions.
All right, so this is Kimberly Craig speaking, and we are waiting for Lawrence to unmute his phone. So Cindy, if possible, if we could go to some of the question and answer opportunities, I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple of questions first and foremost that we can get started on, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Thank you. Question number 1, we are in construction. If work slows and we lay off an employee for a week or 2 and hire him back when work picks up, how would that affect what we have to pay back if we have a PPP loan? What if we can't hire him back?
It will reduce the forgiveness amount. So remember the message in the loan program was it's designed to have you not go down in numbers of employees or go down in payroll totals. So if you do that, you'll still have the loan, you just won't have some portion of it forgiven.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, the key thing on that is, this is Andy, sorry. The key thing on that is, yeah, they want you to maintain the same wages that you were paying. So when you're calculating your monthly average payroll, which includes the medical, all those things. So it's the gross, make sure you are appropriately calculating that average monthly payroll. But the key thing is they don't want you to reduce that. So they want you to bring back the workforce as much as possible to do that with.
Excellent, thank you very much. Question number 2, my wife and I are both self-employed. How do we enter our compensation amounts?
You enter, go ahead, Andy.
From what I understand, for self-employed or independent contractor types businesses, what you want to do is you're going to need to provide more financial information probably. You're going to need to show within your Schedule C or your 1099s what you've been earning. So in a lot of cases on the Schedule C side, it's whatever your net profit is that's what you're reporting on your taxes, that is going to be your possible income on that. So that's what the lenders under the PPP program are going to be looking for.
Excellent. Thank you. Question number 4. I applied for the EIDL and someone left me a message from the SBA from a cell phone. Is this a scam? Would someone call me from a cell phone to ask follow-up questions about my EIDL form?
Andy, I'm gonna let you take that.
I actually don't have an answer to that. I know they've got some of the loan specialists that are working remotely. So there could be a scenario where that could happen. If there's a concern, I would call the toll-free number and then ask to speak to your case manager that's assigned to your loan application. And then that way, that would make you more comfortable in that way and then getting a hold of that individual.
Excellent, thank you. Question number 5, regarding the PPP, if my employees are down to part-time, can we get the grant for the lost wages that they would have been paid before COVID?
The intent of the PPP is to bring them back. So yes, I mean, it's looking at your wages from the prior year for the 12 months before, or not the 12 months. It'll look at the prior wages, and then it's looking to see that you're going to maintain or increase that. So yes, you can try to recover the cost of bringing them back on full time.
Excellent. Will CalCoastal be providing the EIDL and PPP loans? I already have a relationship with them.
EIDL is, remember, it's a direct loan from the SBA. So CalCoastal doesn't get involved, just like none of the other lenders in the community do. You're applying directly with the SBA online, and the SBA makes the loan decision and provides you with the funds. The PPP loan, there's some question as to whether or not CalCoastal, who is a mission lender, is eligible to do the PPP loans because they are not an FDIC depository lender. So the answer to that question is I'm not sure yet. If the rules change, perhaps.
Okay. Next question. I'm the director of a public charter school, which is also a nonprofit 501c3. Are we eligible to apply for the PPP?
I believe so.
Yeah, from all the documentation, at least all 501c3s are eligible. Normally, under our regular SBA programs, they are not eligible. But under these disaster programs, the 501c3s or private nonprofits are eligible now.
Great. Next question. I'm a sole proprietor. Can I just take my EIDL form to any bank for the $10,000 grant? Do I have to go to that same bank if I decide to go with an SBA loan?
The EIDL loan application is directly with the SBA, not with the bank. And in order to access the up to $10,000 cash advance, you have to apply for the EIDL through the SBA streamlined online application that I described.
Great, thank you. Next question. We are a home-based business in Seaside for the past 10 years, operating a wedding business. Does that make us a physical presence?
Yes.
Excellent. Any info on how one can track the progress of an SBA EIDL loan? The simple online application seems to drop into a black hole, no email confirmation, nobody at the call center can confirm if they have the info, and they talk about checking with your online account. Thank you if you have any info. It sounds like maybe they were one of the original applicants.
Andy, I'm going to throw that one your way because I don't have any information on that.
Yeah, from what I've seen is that you should have received at minimum an email confirmation with the loan number. So if you did not receive that, it may not have went through. So if it did not go through, then more than likely you're going to have to reapply again. In a lot of situations, what happened too when they changed the online portal, there was an in-between there from last week where it was having you drop the forms into the application portal. But then over the weekend, they changed the application to where it's a more simpler process. So if you're like in that in-between stage, you probably have to resubmit if you didn't get a confirmation back through email.
Andy, and also what I've heard is that if you've applied for one of these loans and you're not hearing back and you're not sure because you didn't get a confirmation number or you don't have a case manager number, it doesn't hurt to reapply. It's 10 minutes of your time. It gives you a chance to make sure you're in the system, and if they had your application earlier, it doesn't push you down in the queue. You keep your spot in the queue.
Yeah, it sounds correct.
Great. Next question. We do not have a physical building. Can we still apply for a loan? We use a bus to transport clients to overnight shelter and to meals to one of 30 different locations in Monterey County.
I would still say that's a physical presence. Andy, would you agree?
It was kind of breaking up, so I didn't hear the whole question.
They don't have a building. They have a bus where they transport clients for different services.
Okay, they're like a transportation service, medical transport, or?
Sounds like it.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
they're doing business physically in this county.
And if they're getting all of their billings and so forth, it's more like a home-based business, then home-based businesses are eligible.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, what should we do if we have not received the $10,000 loan advance after 3 business days?
Yeah, that I don't know. It could be that they're inundated right now, so it may be a little bit of a delay.
All right. Next question. If you have 2 separate types of businesses with employees, are you able to apply for both types of the businesses? Each has a separate EIN number as well.
Yes.
Great. Can a 501c6 nonprofit apply?
Okay, that has been a big question. Under the wording, it says private nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
So however that works out, they haven't given us a full definition other than 501c3s that are eligible. They haven't given us anything in reference to the other 501c's that are out there, whether they would be eligible or not. For EIDL, I would say it doesn't hurt to apply, as Cindy mentioned earlier. For PPP, we're going to probably need to find out a little bit more for the lending partners to figure out if they can process those applications.
Just as a point of clarification and for our audience, we have over 200 questions that have been submitted. And so if I may ask those that have asked questions, if you could also include your email address. If we do not get to your question, we will email you with a direct reply. That's just as the the questions continue to pile up. I want to make sure that everybody understands we're going to do our best to get questions answered for everyone. Next question, for sole proprietorships, how do we prove we kept the only employee on payroll?
You should have payroll records that demonstrate that how you paid that person before and after you applied. Excellent.
So I think this question has been answered, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway because it seems to be a repeating theme. For the EIDL application online, it was suggested to reapply if this was conducted before 3:30. What if my application was submitted on 3:30? Should I reapply online?
If you have any doubts about whether or not they received your application, it would be worth applying again, spending the 10 minutes and making sure that it's there. It's my understanding, Andy, that they have a system that it's matching the tax ID numbers so that it's pulling the records together if there are multiple applications.
That's correct.
Excellent. Okay, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly. For the PPP, what if an employee would rather do unemployment, getting an additional $600? Does that make sense?
It doesn't help the employer in his PPP loan if the employee chooses not to work and you can't hire someone to replace that employee, your payroll number, your numbers of employees and your payroll costs are going to decline, and then you don't have that forgivable amount.
Excellent. If you have already laid off people, would they need to be on payroll during the 8 weeks?
Yes.
All right, next question, and I think you've covered this, but I'll go ahead and ask it again because it's repeated question. Can you apply for more than one? I applied for disaster loan this week, COVID economic this week, and I am applying for the PPP as soon as possible.
Yes, you can. Just remember that you cannot use both loans to pay for the same thing.
Yeah, let me add to that as well. You can apply for both programs, the EIDL and PPP. Now, here's the scenario that's going to happen now. If you receive an EIDL loan and you receive part of that was to help with your payroll expenses, and if you get the PPP loan, what's going to happen is they will go ahead and refinance the EIDL loan into the PPP loan. So if any portion of that EIDL is used for payroll purposes, they're going to refinance it under the PPP.
Excellent. Question, is there any interest associated with the cash advance portion?
No.
Yeah,
Correct.
the loan advance is it's basically given to the business. It's non-repaid.
Regarding, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add too that, and Andy, you can correct me if my understanding is not right. If someone applies, I'm going to use an example. If someone applies for a $20,000 EIDL loan and they want that $10,000 cash advance, they'll get the $10,000 cash advance, and when their loan is approved, they'll get the remaining $10,000, correct?
From what I'm understanding is the $10,000 is automatic, no matter what, and then whatever the amount that the loan specialist calculates as what they can receive under EIDL is what's going to be offered.
Excellent, thank you. Regarding PPP for loan forgiveness for payroll, I've read that the 8-week payroll period begins when the CARES Act was enacted, and I've also read that the 8-week payroll period begins when the loan is originated. Which is it?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I will look through what I've got in front of me real quick. Unless Andy, if you know.
I don't know, but I gotta assume it's when the documents are signed with the lender and then they're ready to fund the loan. So just like a normal loan, it would be based off of the date that the loan is funded.
Great. Next question. On the EIDL app, I checked the first box, business with less than 500 employees, and should have checked the second box, sole proprietor. Should I reapply?
I don't think it's going to make a difference when you talk to the, do you think, Andy, they're both eligible categories and the loan officer will clear that up when they talk to you?
Yeah, I didn't know if it allowed you to check 2 boxes, but
it doesn't.
Yeah, so
they mistakenly
usually,
checked the wrong box.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, those 2 are eligible businesses. So it, you know, at the time they get contacted, they can make that correction at that time.
Next question. You mentioned that these SBA loans don't apply to farmers and growers. What resources are available for these businesses?
Okay, from what I hear, the state of California does have a program available for farmers and growers. It is a loan program though, so it does have to go through a lending institution. And the guarantee that the lending institution will receive through the state of California program is a 95% loan guarantee. California Coastal Rural Development Corporation there in Salinas is a state guarantee lender, so they do offer that program.
Excellent, thank you. If I just loan my small business to get through the winter months to make payroll, can I include the loan to myself as part of the payables?
Can you read that one again?
Of course. If I just loaned my small business to get through the winter months to make payroll, can I include the loan to myself as part of the payables?
I'm not sure.
All right. We will, I'll ask that person to email and we'll get back to them on that.
Yeah.
Next question. I have salespeople who get salary plus commissions. Do both count towards the total dollar amount of payroll? Obviously, commissions will be lower during this time period. We are continuing to pay salaries for all.
Yes, it's total compensation costs. So I think when Andy was going over that, some of the information cut out, but it's all of your compensation costs, including benefits related to an employee.
All right. Now, any employees that are making $100,000 or more would not be included in that calculation. So you would have to subtract that amount out.
The amount above the 100,000, as I understand it.
Correct.
Yeah, so you can include all of the payroll related up to 100,000 for an individual.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, for the PPP loans, does payroll include fringe, including payroll taxes, FICA, and employee benefits?
Yes.
Great. I run a 501c3 nonprofit and we have a volunteer staff. Can we use the EIDL to cover project expenses, in this case, educational activities for children?
I don't know the answer to that, because we don't work with nonprofits, so.
Understood.
Andy, do you know?
No, I don't know the answer to that either. That
We'll
would probably be something that we discuss with the loan specialist.
I just once again want to announce that this webinar will be available. The whole recording will be available. If you have additional questions, we're now at almost 250 questions. So I want to acknowledge, if we do not get to your question, please include your email address with your question and we will answer them directly. Additionally, if you have questions about the webinar itself, we will be sending out the link to everyone who is registered for it so you can review it. Next question. I am a home-based wedding photographer. Does our private mailbox address used for our mailing work, non-PO box, does our private mailbox address used for our mailing work? It's a non-PO box since it has a physical address, or would I need to put a residential address? Would it delay our loan options? Sorry, that's a complicated question.
That's sort of a technical question in terms of a private mailbox versus a PO box. They're both off-site boxes. If you have to prove that you're doing business, if you're doing business in the location, I would give them both your private mailbox and and the place that you're operating out of, which is your home, just to be safe.
Excellent. Okay. Will there be a list of banks available on a web page somewhere?
Andy.
Under the SBA website, under the COVID-19 website, there is a link to search for lenders. Again, there may be a small amount of lenders that are not participating in the PPP program. So you would have to probably do some searching and going forth. And if your current business banking relationship is not on,
if you go to the link that Andy's talking about,
then you're going to Yeah, the majority of the national banks will be participating.
So if you go to the link that Andy's talking about, or you can just search for SBA lenders, you'll get a website that gives you a place to input your zip code. And then it'll give you the list of lenders that are closest to you. Those are all SBA lenders. They may or may not all be PPP lenders. So the SBDC is endeavoring to find out who locally is doing PPP loans. And as soon as we get that information, we'll start including it on our website. But at this point, we don't have real solid information yet.
Excellent. I have a question from Pacific Rep Theater. We have both full-time and part-time hourly employees, as well as contract workers who are only employed during shows. If the restrictions are still in place for the next 8 weeks and we can't rehearse or perform shows, we can't hire them back. Will that hurt us in terms of loan forgiveness?
Yes, because it will affect your payroll numbers and your employee numbers.
Excellent. Next question. You stated EIDL does not cover lost sales, but if your company cannot cover its payroll and administrative costs, how does the SBA determine the value of the loan? Is it just based on your available collateral?
We're talking about EIDL, right? Yeah. They look at your prior year's
expenses
compared to your current year's expenses, and will recommend an amount that they think is an appropriate cost. Have you ever done one of those, Andy? Because I haven't.
No,
yeah,
I haven't personally, but I mean, they are looking at your expenses that you're paying out. So they're looking at your rent payments. If you have any loan obligations, fixed loan obligations that you have to make monthly payments on, that'll include those monthly payments for that. If you have accounts payables, things like that. So all the expenses on a daily operational basis, that's what the EIDL program will look to provide assistance under.
Great, thank you. We have about 2 more minutes worth of questions, and then Lawrence is on the line. So we are going to flip back and let him end the show. So let me get to a couple more questions for you two, and thank you very much for your time and answering those questions directly. We are also in construction. Work is currently steady. However, it may slow down, or rumors that the county may stop all construction. With a PPP, is there a weekly hourly minimum to meet for each employee, or do they all need to show 40 hours a week? What happens if we need to lay off half due to the lack of work during the 8 weeks? If any of the above, what rate do we need to pay back the loan? You may not be able to answer all of that.
They're looking at your totals before and your totals during the 8-week period. So if they're less during the 8-week period, that reduces your forgivable amount. The interest rate on the PPP is 1%.
There's one thing too that you also have to take into consideration is that they're looking at full-time equivalent employees. So even though they're part-time, you would combine the part-times to make up a full-time equivalent. So when you're calculating your average monthly payroll, you're going to want that. And then, again, the key thing here is you want to try to keep the employees on your payroll so they don't go and try to get unemployment assistance. So the key thing is making sure that they're still on your payroll. So even though your business has dropped, these funds are there to assist you in keeping that payroll there while your business has gone away.
Excellent.
That's a great point.
We're going to do last question here, and then we're going to go back to Lawrence Harris. Is the emergency relief going to be treated as taxable income?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe it is, but I
shouldn't, because it's especially if you're paying it back, it's going to be an expense item on your tax returns because you're paying interest on it. So it's not going to be where it's taxable income.
I think they're talking about the $10,000 emergency cash.
Oh, yeah, from what I heard, I don't think that is going to
I've
be.
heard that as well, that I don't think it is taxable. But we can probably clarify that.
All right, well, we will go ahead and close this portion of question and answer. We'll go to Lawrence Harris, the Program Director for the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. Lawrence is going to be going over a program. It's a free program to small businesses to help you get government contracts. And as I said at the beginning of this webinar, government is certainly still open for business. We've had people inquire about getting N95 masks from health supply companies and whatnot. So we are going to be covering a little bit of that in the next few minutes. And then Cindy, if you could just wrap up at the very end, that would be great.
Sure.
And Lawrence, if I could have you hang up and call back in. For some reason, I can't unmute you. So if you can do that, that'd be great.
Oh, it's all fun and games.
Never a dull moment.
Well, in the meantime, Louis, if you could interrupt if we have Lawrence back on the line, that would be great. Cindy, are you okay to answer a few more questions?
Let's keep going.
All right, that's what I love to hear. All right, because of the circumstances, we may want to put through salary reductions for some key management roles. Will this impact the PPP forgiveness, or should we adjust the amount based on the proposed salary changes when applying for the loan?
If you're reducing it, it will affect the forgiveness amount. The calculation that you're applying for is based on a formula that of your prior expenditures. So I don't think you can manage that.
Okay. Next question. We had an employee give notice to accept another position. Will this impact our PPP forgiveness since it was the employee's choice and not an action we initiated?
Yes, they want you to hire a replacement.
Excellent, thank you. Let's see, it's a repeat question. What if I don't have any work for my employees? Am I paying them the full amount to stay home, or can I have them do things outside of their scope of work?
That's an HR question,
Yeah,
as opposed to a loan question. I'm going to pass on that one.
That's a fair comment. Here's a question. We have one employee remaining on payroll to ensure minimum operations and cover administrative tasks and public communications while we are shut down due to COVID-19. Since we are not an essential business and cannot be open to the public, there is not any work available for staff, even if we bring them back onto payroll at their normal pay rate and at their normal pay rates and hours. In fact, the shelter in place order prevents us from having them physically come into work, even if there was work to do. So if we receive a PPP loan to cover the one remaining employee along with other expenses that are covered, will the loan still be forgiven even if we don't bring everyone back onto payroll?
Here's an example of where I think you want to carefully look at which of the two programs are better for you. And if it even makes sense to apply for the PPP, you may be better served by going for all that you need under the EIDL loan.
Excellent. Well, I think that's it. I think we have Lawrence on the line finally.
We do.
Excellent. Lawrence, are you ready to speak on government contracting? Oh, it's all fun and games.
I believe I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. Excellent. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Lawrence.
Okay. Hang on.
Excellent. Lawrence, are you ready? He's got the delay on his computer.
Yeah, there's a delay. So I should be muting my cell phone, right?
Mute your PC, not your cell phones, because you're talking through the cell phone.
Mute the PC. Yeah, that's what I did, and then I got confused and went back and forth. Hang on.
Well, whatever you're doing now, so do that.
Just go ahead and go forward.
Just go ahead and go forward. Okay. Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Well, I'm not sure if there's going to be a response to that. So yes, this is the end of this presentation, I guess, and we're talking about an introduction to government contracting, which is what the Monterey Bay PTAC does. And so PTAC is an acronym, and it stands for the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And we are a nonprofit agency here in Salinas, and we work pretty closely with the SBDC. So you've been hearing Cindy Merzon and myself and her. We work pretty closely together in terms of assisting small businesses, government contracting from our perspective, and then from her perspective, small business assistance, funding, business plans, and things like that. So at our end, we are, as you're seeing this PowerPoint presentation, this is going to be a very brief presentation on what we do, because there's a lot of detail in the different services that we provide. And so up front here, these three main points. We're nonprofit, I mentioned that, and we assist small businesses in obtaining government contracts, and that's everything from the federal, state, and local government levels. And again, this is providing technical assistance, counseling services. We have counselors on hand to do that. A good 4 of us do that. Next slide, please. I know there's a bit of a lag here, unfortunately. Okay, there we go. So this is a brief rundown, though it's pretty comprehensive actually, of the services we provide at PTAC. So the small business counseling services, and I've already mentioned that, and that's quite extensive because as a small business, you're interested in getting contracts from the government. And just like I think it was Cindy and Kimberly mentioned, yeah, the government is open for business. They still have needs for products and services, and they're still issuing solicitations so that they can receive proposals so that they can grant those contracts. So we are the facilitator of that process between the government agencies at all levels and private businesses like yourselves. So getting into a little bit more specifics about that, number 2 is certifications and registration assistance. Now that's one of the basic first things you want to do. Why? Well, you're dealing with government. And when you deal with government, they have procedures they have to follow. And that's written down in a huge code of regulations. And it's called the Federal Acquisition Requirement. So what that involves is crossing your T's and dotting your I's, and that means registrations and certification. So we help people do that, and that puts them in line to actually get real government contracts. Now, there are some very specific instances where government officials can use credit cards, and they can purchase stuff pretty quickly without the proposal process. That's rare. It does happen. But mostly, you do need to be certified and registered in the system to get contracts. So we help you with that. And I'll be talking about a few of those in the next few slides, just very briefly. Another thing that PTAC does is the subcontracting opportunity distribution. So that's become more important recently. We at PTAC are getting requests from different agencies, mostly in California, for businesses that we have in our database to help them meet their needs, right? So this has been happening because everything seems to be going online. And the most recent one was a request from the city of Monterey for certain emergency medical supplies. And we reached into our database and found 24 companies or so and presented those companies with the opportunity to get a government contract from the city of Monterey. Now, what was interesting about that was that it was an emergency situation, and I spoke to two of the contracting officers there, and they were ready to purchase mostly products using a government credit card. So it would have been very fast without the proposal process, right? So that seems to be what seems to be happening a lot lately. This way you don't have to write a proposal in that case. Now, it wouldn't be a huge multi-million-dollar or even $100,000 contract, but it would be in the thousands and maybe tens of thousands. So that's just one of the things. If you're aligned with us and our services at PTAC, you're in the loop of hearing about. That's the subcontracting opportunity distribution. And number 4 is a electronic bid match service that we have, and this is no cost. Now, what this is a tool that we help put you in line to receive solicitations from the government electronically. So it's an up-to-date, very modern system where you don't have to actually search too much for things or go down to City Hall and get paper-based solicitations like the old days. But this is where we would build a profile of your business. Now, I should say, and I'll certainly say it by the end, all of this comes if you are our client, right? The client of PTAC, and becoming our client is no cost. And you'll go to our website, and I'll mention what that is later. You go to our website, sign up as a new client, and then we see your brief profile there. Counselors would call you and start that whole relationship. So once that happens, then you can avail yourself of these services. So the electronic bid match service is a very good one because, like I said, solicitations come into your email. After we build your profile, and that takes a little bit of counseling right there. Again, that's at no cost. And that profile that we build can be tweaked and polished in certain ways. If you maybe add some services to your business or you take some away, we can always tweak that profile so that the solicitation matches are more appropriate. And number 5,
Lawrence, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to make a request that we speed it up so slightly. We are running 3 minutes over at this point, and I want to ensure that we.
Okay.
I want to ensure that we respect everyone's time. So thank you.
I got you. Sorry about that. Yeah, training webinars. As you can see, there's the PowerPoint. Proposal review. If you write, this is very important. If you write a proposal. You want to have a second pair of eyes to look at it, we can certainly do that. And then, of course, small business liaison. If you need to contact agencies for certain questions, we can sort of help you with that as an assistant. And then the workshop outreach events, which is what we often did, and we did these live and in person. Of course, we can no longer do that, but we're doing this kind of thing, and we'll be doing more of it by webinar. Next slide, please. A little bit of a lag there, and I think it's going to talk about our service area, and there might be a little map on that. So there's the service area, 15 counties, essentially the middle part of California. So, but this is not written in stone. I mean, if you're outside these counties, we will certainly assist you in government contracting, no question about that. Next slide, please. I think this one's going to say some of the things that you need to do government contracts, some of the basics. I think the next one will show. Next slide. Yeah, it might mention certain registrations. Yeah, so this is kind of a conclusion, but how to get started, become a PTAC client, register our website. That's our website at the bottom right-hand corner right there. There should be a box that says sign up as a new client. Click on that, ask you a brief series of questions. When you submit that, it goes right into our e-censor, and then we know that you're interested, and then we get back with you. So work with us, work with SBDC. We can help you get the basics to start off with, which is the SAM number, a DUNS number, NAICS numbers. I won't go into what they mean yet, but you'll certainly find out all about those when you get counsel from us. And we actually can help you build what you don't often see, which is a government marketing plan. If you guys are in business, you have a business plan. But the government market is slightly different, so we can help you with how that's different and tailor yourselves to meeting the needs of government agencies. And we can also help you register with the state of California, which is extremely important because that's a big purchaser of goods and services. So that's about it. I know I have to be fast here. Now that phone number is my cell phone. It's not the office phone because we're all working from home. So that's what we have to use now. So that's my cell phone. Call me there at just about any time, and I'll help you in terms of myself or the other counselors that we have on hand. That's my email. Email us at any time. Email me. And that's our website. So that should be the basic stuff you need if you want to move into government contracting and expand your business that way. My feeling is if you do business commercially, you can do business in the government venue. Why? Because the government does everything under the sun, not just tanks and planes and the rest of it, but everything in the commercial world is bought in the government world as well. So I think that's about it. Kimberly, I know I went over time. I apologize for that, but I covered everything, and I hope it's enough of a teaser to get people interested.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. We really appreciate it.
You're
Just
welcome.
in conclusion, I want to acknowledge that we will have a webinar next week on the payroll protection plan, the PPP, which will go much further in depth on that. And so if you've registered for this webinar, you will have, we have your email and we will be inviting you to that. You are welcome to participate. Our webinars are free. Hopefully you got some really good information out of this. Again, we will try to answer all of the questions that were submitted. Please send your email address along. I do want to thank Cindy Merzon, the Director of CalCoastal Small Business Development Center, for participating today. Thank you, Cindy. Jennifer Kuyper, the Senior Relationship Manager of Pacific Valley Bank. Her phone's ringing off the hook. Andy Seeto, the Lender Relations Specialist for the U.S. Small Business Administration. And of course, Lawrence Harris, the Director of the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And again, I want to thank our partners in this, the Small Business Development Center, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the City of Salinas, and the County of Monterey. And as we all know, Luis Alvarez of Alvarez Technology Group is a genius when it comes to putting on webinars. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for attending, and we'll be in touch. Take care.